Hello, Playdate. This is Don.
This is Nick.
And this is Ryan.
This week we are covering Playdate news.
Recent indie releases.
And holding it together this one. Let's make it happen. Oh, what do you say, Don?
You sound real excited, Ryan. Listeners, be more excited to hear us talk about Playdate stuff than Ryan sounds to talk about Playdate
I'm
stuff. He's
so
under the weather.
yes, that is what's happening. I'm still very excited about Playdate, but I'm not excited about this whole thing I've got going on. So if there's
Picked
an
up.
abrupt mute while I'm talking, you'll know what's happening. But Don, Nick, I'm gonna need to heavily rely on you for some surrogate boops this episode. So get them ready, get them started. I know
Nope.
the first one's coming up. Who's
Nope.
taking it? Who's
Ryan picked up a case of scurvy on vacation
on the high
uh,
seas?
last week. Okay, boop. News and notes. Ryan, what do we got? Do you want
Very
how much
impressed,
if you
Don.
you like wave
Thank
your
you.
hand if you want us to read it, or
No,
you're gonna read all this?
if I start violently coughing, you'll
I'll
know to
take
start
over.
reading.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes that happens these days.
Okay.
Okay. The reason I'm laughing is because I almost read, keep this. These are all in the show notes. That is not
Don't
something
delete
we're
them,
supposed to.
Ryan.
Okay, I won't. First news and note is hey guys, have you heard about this new podcast logo we have and a new
What?
t-shirt we're doing to celebrate it? Well, you're not the
Tell me
only one
more.
who's heard about it because we got some very kind words from important people. First, Osuika, who you might know as the developer of such games as Q Simulator, where you're experiencing the thrill of waiting in a long line, or the uncranked Play Jam runner-up developer for Duck Game and a Hello Playdate podcast favorite, Super Corporate Tax Evader. He wrote me over on the X, the Twitters, and said, "Hey, just wanted to say I totally dig the new podcast icon. That was so sweet. Thank you very much, Osuika. You sure didn't have to do that, but it was great to hear from you. We had a nice little conversation after that. He's working on a new game, no projected release date in sight quite yet, but it's a follow-up to our fan favorite Corporate Tax Evader. So at some point in our lives, we should see that. Also, Pixel Ghost, developer of Life's Too Short series, the prize gem of the Play Jam 3 entry Hidden. That's the game that brought some attention to the plight of the unhoused. And the forthcoming Shadowgate PD, an homage to one of the most beloved point and click adventure games. He exclaimed, "Got mine!" And even tagged Playdate in reference to the
Hmm.
t-shirt that he got as well. So very cool to be getting some public love. I've been seeing a lot of orders come in, and I don't want to out anybody who doesn't want to be outed. But all that to say, it's been really, really heartening to see the orders roll in, that people are listening to us. I don't know why, but thank you for tuning in. That sure makes us all feel real great. And speaking of lots of orders coming in, I was getting a number of them coming in from across the pond, as they say, in the UK. And that brings me to a little update. A lot of folks from the UK are saying, "Hey, I see that your price is for within the US. What's it take to get a shirt to me outside of the US?" That is totally possible. Pretty much every UK order I've priced out has been an additional $12 to get it to you. So shirts are $30. That includes free shipping within the United States. So $30, you're out the door in the US. If you're in the UK and you'd like a shirt, I'm just asking you to add $12 to it. Send me a private message, and I'll tell you where to send that. Um, I
That's
think
$9.44 sterling, by the way.
it's all right. Don't make me do math. Oh Lord, here we go.
I'm telling our UK
Uh,
listeners it's a deal. It's even less sterling than it is dollars.
Thank you for filling that time while I coughed on. I'm not sure what you said, but I'm sure it was brilliant. I'm also going to say that along with this shirt order that you, dear listener, might be placing, we're sweetening this pot, making it extra spicy by adding in a Hello Playdate podcast sticker. Now, this isn't just any run-of-the-mill sticker. This is a premium printed, die-cut, multi-inch size that is perfect for going on anything you want. It could go on your designer Yeti. It could go on the back of your laptop. It could go on your Tamagotchi. It's probably too big to fit on your Playdate. I haven't tried it, but it can go wherever you want it to. These last a super long time. These are printed by a printer that I've used that these have stood the test of time through weather, on the exterior of cars, etc. So anyhow, we are providing you one of those for free with every single t-shirt order. Just got them in and they look fantastic. Essentially, they are the logo as well. You guys excited about that?
Yeah, they look great. Mine arrived today. Thank you, Ryan.
You got it.
I gave one to a sometimes listener, my son, and he's stuck it on the back of his iPad right away.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Nick, did you get yours
well.
too? I tossed yours though. Okay, excellent.
I just got them today. Haven't opened the
that
box
right?
yet, but I am excited to crack into it. Start taking a look, handing them out.
Awesome.
All that good stuff.
Very good. So place that t-shirt order, get a free sticker along with it. And these t-shirt pre-orders are only available through July 4th, 2024. The website is elephanteater.com/HPP for Hello Playdate Podcast shirt. That's elephanteater.com/HPP shirt. That should take you straight to the pre-order page. We'll have a link in the show notes as well. And in case I've not been talking about this shirt enough, I really wanted to wait, Nick, you might have to help me out here. Nick, you know how when you say really interesting things about technology and then Don gets really upset? Well, that's about to happen right now when I talk about t-shirt printing. So
let me note the time so I can
all
edit
right,
this out.
Don, you got this?
Different kind of technology.
No, you better not edit this out. I'm gonna be real.
You don't
real,
listen, so
real
yeah,
upset.
I won't edit this out.
You got me there. Okay, so these t-shirts, I'm using a new technology to me anyway. So traditionally, when t-shirts are screen printed, they use plastisol ink, which is great because it's bulletproof. It comes out the exact color you want, but the downfall is that it has sort of a plasticky feeling when it's screen printed onto a shirt. But there's an alternate method called discharge printing that uses water-based inks. And my understanding of this in the past, when I've asked printers about it, is that it's essentially like bleaching out part of the shirt. So there's not like plastic ink sitting on top of the shirt. It's actually like changing the color of the shirt itself, which is great because it doesn't feel like you have a big plastic sign on the front of your shirt. But it's not great because, from my understanding, the color fidelity was real shaky, meaning if you have a black shirt and you discharge part of it, it could be white like you want it to be, or it could be like off-white or brown, or depending upon the colors that were used to dye the shirt. Like if it was a black shirt, it may have just been a whole mess of dyes like oranges and teals and whatever. It could dye out to one of those alternate colors, orange, teal, what have you. So essentially, you really needed to be kind of like laissez-faire about how these colors end up if you're going to use discharge printing. Well, my friends, I talked to this printer that I'm using, and I voiced that understanding to him, and he told me, actually, no, that's not really the case. We can get real darn close to whatever color you want using discharge printing. And I said, well, hell, let's give that a try on these other shirts that I happen to be wearing right now that are not the Hello Playdate podcast shirts, but essentially I made some shirts for my 20th anniversary, and I just picked them up today, and oh my gracious, they turned out perfect. Exactly the colors that I wanted. After a single wash, it feels like there's no ink on it at all. I've never experienced anything like this before. It's so luxurious. And I mention all this to say, this is how we are printing the Hello Playdate podcast shirts. So not only are they already on 100% ring spun cotton, super soft, but now the print itself is going to be super soft too. And you get a sticker. I'm so excited. I'm going to go into a coughing fit. Don, it's your turn.
3 minutes. That does look nice. I mean, I can't tell. If you hadn't said something, I wouldn't have known that wasn't a normal t-shirt. And the shirt you're wearing looks nice.
Why,
Nick,
thank
do
you.
you agree?
It's a beautiful shirt, and I'm very excited to see how these come out. So great
Very
job, Ryan.
becoming.
Fantastic.
Nice job yelling at your printer until they relented.
He was cowering in the corner before I left. Actually, we have plans for lunch next time we meet. But anyway, as if that wasn't
Oh,
enough self-indulgent news, let's boop us into the next one
boop.
to talk about. I never have even like looked at Hello Playdate podcast anywhere, like Spotify or what, but somebody was bringing it up in the Discord, and so we were kind of poking around on Spotify, and Nick made some changes to make things work, but I saw that we have 13 5-star reviews on Spotify. Thank you very
95
much.
one-star reviews.
Well, I wasn't going to report that, but and then I got curious. I'm like, oh, are we on Apple Podcast too? We have 16 5-star reviews on Apple Podcast and a review from someone named Sports and Geekery. This is back in March of this year, so I guess we're not too late to this party. But he says, great indie game reviews and news for Playdate consoles. Very nice podcast, which covers the indie handheld console, in the hit indie handheld console Playdate, the beautiful yellow console with a crank, and the news, games, and development around it. New episodes come out roughly twice a month, which is a great pace for a podcast about a smaller console. The hosts get along great. Oh, we do? The hosts get along great and interact nicely and don't talk over each other or constantly interrupt each other, getting sidetracked. So anyway, Sports and Geekery, thanks so much for that. That was real cool to see.
It's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's very, very nice. Thank you all for listening.
totally. We super
Yes.
appreciate that.
And it was Dom who pointed out that our Spotify link was broken. So thank you, Dom, for bringing that to our
Yes.
attention. Thank you, Nick, for fixing that. Yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't have noticed either. So we really do appreciate you looking out.
Amen. Yeah, thank you so much. Um, I feel like we're entering the non-self-indulgent part of the news and notes. So I'm
Well,
going to
that's
try to
when. Let me see.
boop us into this next one that is a new Playdate light mod from Paul Straw. Ooh, guys, did you see this? If you haven't, click McCade on over. So this one's pretty interesting because there is a deeper body requirement. This is not one of those like octopus arms shine a light over top of it. This is like an interior device. And so because there is an extra PCB required, it requires a deeper body. Consequently, a new 3D printed case is required for it. But Paul Straw is looking into the possibility of running a Kickstarter for an injection molded custom case to make that available to folks who might want a light mod. For anyone who, I don't know, might want to play their Playdate in the evenings. Not that we haven't mentioned that, or not that I haven't mentioned that a number of times here. That would be amazing. So, Paul Straw, I hope that you will reach out and let us know if you start up a Kickstarter. I would love to let people know about this. I have a feeling there are a few other folks who would like to know about it too. I saw this on the old GovBubs Twitter, so we'll have a link to that in the show notes of today's episode. Guys, are you still hating on light mods for Playdates? What are your feelings on this?
I did see this somewhere and I thought it looked pretty cool. I didn't realize that it was a thicker case. For some reason, I just thought the light was shining through the regular case. But yeah, no, it looks great.
Yeah, if you poke around a little bit, there's a bit of explanation. So anyhow, hopefully that demystifies what's going on with Paul Straws.
Gamma posted it on our Playdate News channel. Thank you, Gamma.
is this sidelit? It appears to be.
It does
Yeah, I
appear
think
to
so.
be.
Rather than backlit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Gamma, you're a better Discorder than I am. I probably should have posted it there too. Thank you for your help. And more news about Gamma later. For now, there is a Bandcamp article on Playdate scores and sound systems. So, we were talking about how Playdate doesn't always get the love in different arenas. Well, this was a pretty cool article on Bandcamp about basically how flippin' awesome the Playdate sound system is. They call out a number of different games and soundtracks and have links to those where you can listen to them. But I thought that was real neat that the Playdate sound system was getting some love. I know Nick Baldridge here has been letting us know about how great that is pretty much since the beginning. Nice to hear some other folks are catching on too.
It is a really cool
Definitely.
article.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
says by Casey Jarman, but then on the side it says Adam Carey wrote it. Oh, no, Adam Carey's the artist. Okay, there's different artists linked
Hmm.
on the side. This is a really cool looking article, actually.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry. Did I cut you off,
yeah,
Nick?
and
Were you hopping on there?
Uh, no, just saying it was really cool.
Indeed.
and links to the soundtracks too. So it's not just a visual article; it's an audio article. So nice work, Bandcamp. Um, that brings us to an Engadget review of Keeper. So again, I feel like who is the dev who had some qualms with 3 games being mentioned all the time? I felt like this was a nice one with a review of the Keeper. And if I'm remembering things correctly, I think this is the article that said it was an indie game that made them cry, something to that effect. First line, sometimes it's the simplest games that end up leaving you all teary-eyed and emotional. I felt a lot of feels going through this game. This was the one where I was on a multi-hour flight and Dawn did not tell me that there was a walkthrough of the game. And I
Right.
was really just making my way around this environment, but loving every second of it, of the exploration, of the puzzle solving, of the storytelling. And I'm so glad that that's getting some love. I think that was my number 2 game of the year last year. Um, second only to Fall of Elena Temple, but again, way, way high up there. So Keeper, congratulations for getting some more love there.
And
Guys, thoughts?
have you all
Yeah,
seen that someone at Engadget really loves the Playdate, and they've been publishing regular articles about it. I didn't. I don't think I posted the one today in the Discord, but it seems like every week there's a new Playdate featured game article, which is pretty awesome.
totally. I've been noticing that too. And I meant to reference the prior Engadget article that I linked here last episode to see if it was the same writer doing it. I fell short of that. Uh, but yeah, I would be real curious about who in particular or multiple who's is getting
Well,
into the Playdate at
right
Engadget.
below this one, these are both Cheyenne McDonald. Right below this one, from Just Sunday, is a little write-up on Penrose, also
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
Cheyenne McDonald.
Neat, neat, neat. Very cool. Always great to see the Playdate getting some more love. Um, and then to round out this news and notes section, I wanted to do just a couple of quick follow-ups about the Uncranked Play Jam. Um, I regrettably was not able to play many of them as we talked last time, but I did have a chance over the course of being sick these past few days to dive into a lot more of them. And I wanted to highlight a few that did not hit the top marks. There were a few that, Dragon Flagon and Duck Game and that were getting a lot of love. But I played a few that, oh, man, really stood out to me. First of all, I want to give big props to Jelly Float. This is like an underwater platformer game. And as Don mentioned last episode, you're kind of like you're a fish that spins around a jellyfish and kind of like poot poot, gives you bubbles to allow him to move in whatever direction you need to go. And this game was so e- endearing and fun and challenging, but not to the point of frustration that it was so close to becoming my pick of the week for next week. I've got the game next week, and man, this just so narrowly missed it for another one. But I also wanted to highlight Lake Hero. This is an awesome little inner tube floater game where you're moving around and picking up garbage, being the hero of the lake. I thought it was such a fun concept. Don, I saw your mentions on the itch page about how it'd be nice to be able to see the direction in which it was pointing a little easier. I might refer you to a developer of Lake Hero. I might refer you to Mr. Jones watches. And I know this sounds like a ridiculous plug because I've got some designs with them, but there's a designer with their like top selling design. You go to their website, you're going to see it. And essentially, there's a little guy in an inner tube right in the center of a watch face. And that is the hour's hand. And the way it's the hour's hand is because the person's feet are kind of like boop, you know, in sort of a point hanging off the edge of the inner tube. And I was thinking, man, that would be a really easy way to let Don and everybody else know who wants to play that game. This is the direction which you are pointing. So anyway, I thought I'd mention that too. I have another game that really sunk into hooks into me, but I'm gonna leave that one alone for a little foreshadowing until later in the episode. But we're gonna have yet another link to the Uncranked Game Jam games here in the show notes for you to investigate. Guys, any thoughts or any other follow-ups you wanted to do from our massive Uncranked Game Jam episode?
No, I mean we kind of went over all of them, give them all a little bit of time, and I'll have a link to that episode in the show notes if you want to hear a little more about each one.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our news and notes section, which means it's time for boop, Don to take over with the indie inventory.
Right on. So there wasn't a whole lot. There were a lot of games that just looked like they were demos or just trying stuff, and just not a whole lot of stuff floated up on itch in the last couple of weeks, which isn't a bad thing. So the
Don't
first
sell
one,
yourself short here, Don. You got a few up here.
there's a few. Well, most of these are catalog, but one of them that's not is a game called Superplex by Elioth, and this is a remake of a game called Superplex, released in 1991. They don't say what system this was created for, but they do list the original creators here in the description, and it's some sort of maze game. It looks kind of Dig Duggy, but with a lot more enemies than Dig Dug has. Uh, or a little Pac-Man-y.
All right, I've finished my coughing fit. I think I can chime in here too. But Don's description is pretty apt. This looks pretty killer, and it's only a couple bucks. I don't know if the price was mentioned or not during my fit of coughs. Nick, any thoughts about Superplex?
Looks really polished and cool, and it looks really fun. So $2.
This is interesting. It even mentions known issues. There is, it says camera flickers for 1 frame when entering a new level. That's awfully truthful of the developer to say that. I feel like I wouldn't even think twice about something like that. Control feels weird at first, might improve that. Oh, interesting. Huh. And when spamming controls, Murphy sometimes looks in the wrong direction. Oh, so don't break the game is what he's saying. Interesting. I, I think that's the first time I've seen a developer uh, have a known issues section, and I feel like those issues are awfully minor. Yeah, this looks like a real cool game.
Mhm.
Cool. Which one was that with the known issues?
That was the one you
Superplex.
were just talking about, Suplex.
Superplex? Oh, I must have missed that. That's cool
Superplex.
though. Yeah, it looks like it's
Yeah.
had quite a few updates. I guess I missed this one. It officially launched a few months ago, but it's new to me. I don't think we
Very
mentioned
cool.
it.
New to me as well. Glad you brought it up, Don.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this before.
And
Yeah,
then
it
we
looks
got
like I was just gonna say it looks like the devs being real active, so that's always great to see.
yeah, I do love to see that. I hate when a game has a lot of promise, comes out, and then just sits there and you never hear from the
Yeah.
dev again.
Yeah.
Goes nowhere. And then we got a really good catalog update today. Some really cool games. So the first one is Quizzical from Toad, or Totally Under Control.
I
It
saw Toad
causes,
posting about this. This was his Game Jam entry, right? Game Jam 3
yeah,
or something like that?
yeah,
Play Jam 3?
they fleshed it out. Was it 3? Play Jam 3 or 5, or does it
Huh.
say on here?
We can make a correction next episode.
One of the Play Jams, yes. But yeah, Play Jam 5. They added leaderboards and a lot of different things. I don't remember. I thought I remembered playing it on the Play Jam, but the screenshots here on catalog look a lot different than what I remember.
Hmm.
Anyway, I bought it, so I will play it later, but I have not tried it yet. But it looks like a fun quiz game. So
Hmm.
yeah, forward to checking
Very
that one
neat.
out. Next up is 10-Day Champion by Nebukad Studio. And this one is new to me. It looks like you're training up a gladiator in a Nick, what is the game where you would put CDs in? Monster
Oh,
something.
Monster Rancher.
Monster Rancher. It reminds me of Monster Rancher.
Hmm.
But maybe with more dialogue and like exploration and stuff. And then after 10 days, that's it. You have 10 days to win or lose in the arena.
Hmm.
So every decision counts, it says.
Huh. This
They're
looks
not
crazy.
monsters, they're humans, but
This looks crazy fleshed out.
yeah.
Wow.
So that one's
I
$6. Sorry.
I love the color pixel art header image they have here too.
Yeah,
Nicely
I
done.
like that they're doing this. A lot of artists or a lot of games are adding really nice artwork
Yeah.
here on catalog. So very cool. James Game Boy Initial Daydream, a game that you've heard about a few
Hey.
times, but now it is on catalog, $5. So inspired by Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, the NES classics. So I played through a bit of this and enjoyed what I played, but I have not finished it yet. So I need to get back and keep going. But
How
it's
long would you say the playtime is on this, Don?
well, the description here says 2 to 3 hours.
I'm glad you read that. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. This looks like a Nick game. So
It
um
it does.
it
Yes.
does, yes. Anyway, so everybody check that out. James Game Boy, very cool person,
That's
and
cool.
highly
I know
recommend checking out their stuff.
yeah, he's been working on that a long time too. That's great.
Yeah. First in Line by Ray. This one I did play recently. This was another Game Jam game that has been fleshed out where
Hmm.
you are basically going in. It's sort of like a Simon Says. You go up on stage, you're trying to remember your lines, and your lines are a bunch of different commands on the Playdate. So you're trying to
Uh,
Simon Says, memorize all of the different button presses. And if you mess up, then you mess up, or you mess
uh,
up on stage. But
that's so cute.
there's multiplayer modes, multiple modes, online leaderboards. So check it out. No scores yet on some of these modes too, because there's so many modes on here.
Wow, these gifs are like a perfect sequence to show you what happens in the game. This like note that comes up with all these different button presses or commands, and then getting on stage and trying to do them in sequence, and what happens if you make it or don't. Like, really cool. This looks amazing.
Ray has an excellent sense of humor, so I'd expect nothing less.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Next up is one that I hadn't heard of either, which is surprising, by Tomas Franco, and this is Deep Space Dapper Squad,
Okay.
some sort of space exploration game, but there's a lot of different elements, treasure hunting and communicating with s- creatures in outer space, as well as flying your saucer around and whatnot. Um, Piloting as well as bartering. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but it looks awesome.
Can I just geek out for a second on
Yeah,
like how much better of a name Deep Space Dapper Squad is than like Men in Black? Like how great is that name? Deep Space Dapper Squad. I
it's
love
pretty
that.
solid.
It's
Yeah,
pretty fantastic. Yeah.
I dig the Toe Jam and Earl logo and the Toe Jam and Earl looking alien suit. That's
The
really smooth
aesthetic. Yeah.
animation. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Totally. That big mustache guy in the background. Oh my gosh. I'm I'm Oh, the monocular alien has a bow tie. I just
Yeah.
noticed that.
This looks
The
super
dapper
cute.
part.
Totally, this is killer.
I played
Wow.
my Playdate quite a bit. I forgot to bring it over to the desk with me, but I played it quite a bit this week. And every time I turned it on, I was like, "Oh, here's like 8 games I want to try right
Hmm.
now, or like I want to be playing." It wasn't, "Oh yeah, I've just I'm stuck on one game." Like it's happened so many times over life of the Playdate where I'm just addicted to one game. But there's so many games right now that I just want to spend time with. So it's a real good problem to have right now.
That's great.
This is making it worse though. But anyway, Deep Space Dapper Squad, $8 right now in catalog. And there, I just wanted to mention real quick, there is a sale going on. They keep having these sales. It looks like it's going for 1 week on most of these because they started putting end dates on some of them. So a few of these have been going for a few weeks, and then I noticed that what was it? Scrolling Enigma is up in a week. I picked that one up. It's $3. I'm not going to go over all these, but even Quizzical, which came out today, is 25% off.
Yeah, I'll
So,
highlight Medial as well. That was a former Ryan pick. I really enjoyed that
mhm.
one. That's down to $1. What? Just real quick, Diction, Crank and Shoot, Steamed Roller, Platform 10, The Tartine Show, Gun Trails, and Greed are all on sale right now.
I watched a lot of Destination Playdate this weekend too. I hurt my ankle, so I was on the couch like all weekend, which was kind of fun in a way. But I just had Destination Playdate playing in the background, and it gave me good views of a lot of these games where I like played them and not really understood what was going on. But he went over like how to play Tartine Show, which I didn't understand. So
Hmm.
I'll put a link in the show notes. He's got like 130 videos up right now.
What?
Yeah. So don't
That's
sleep on it.
bonkers.
Yeah, a lot of really good content there.
Are
So
they
anyway,
all like each episode is a review of a different game?
yeah.
Wow.
Some are
Wow.
like 3 minutes. It depends on the game. But there's one that he couldn't get very far into, so it was like 3 minutes. But most of them are 6 to 8 minutes.
That's impressive. I didn't
That's
realize he had
amazing.
that big of a catalog yet.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I think he started after us and now he's already surpassed our episode count. Very nicely done.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so that's in the inventory. And I'll leave it to Nick.
Hello, everybody.
I'll surpass Ryan. Ryan,
Hum.
we're gonna let you rest your voice for a little while.
No,
Yeah.
Nicholas, I need some help.
We don't want you to boop yourself into a
What?
coughing fit. So
What section are
um,
we going to? I don't know we're in a new section yet.
it's called Pick of the Week.
But how do I know that we're in a new
Welcome.
section? There's no
I said
audio cue.
boop. Okay. So
Perfect.
the pick of the week this week is Time Flies Like an Arrow from Ian Harrower Games.
Nice.
Yes. And this was a game that was originally a play jam game, right?
Yeah, I
Yes,
was
play
trying to see
jam.
which one.
That's what I was looking for too.
Play Jam 4.
Play jam 4. Thank you.
Don is on it.
Oh, it's right at the top. This was originally a Play Jam 4 game, and
Don's reading all the words today.
the theme for the Play Jam 4 was "Your time is up." So the original Play Jam version is available for free on itch, but the game of the week, the pick of the week, is the paid version, which is $5 on itch at the moment. So in this game, you play as one of the Time Flies, which is a group of time traveling uh, police that are also flies, and they have to capture suspects throughout time that are interrupting the time stream. And it is very funny and clever, and the artwork is really interesting, and the um, control scheme is something that I want to talk about as well. But essentially, the goal of the game is to catch arrows to increase the amount of time that you spend in the time stream in the past, and then using your past self and their actions when they initially arrive in the time stream, you try to coordinate with the actions of your past self to squeeze in on the criminal uh, when they arrive within the scene. And this takes a preset number of seconds, which are indicated to you at the top left of the screen. And the time that you have remaining in the time stream is communicated in the top right. Um, this is a lot more challenging than it may seem from this description that I'm giving, uh, because of the times which are given to you and the time that it takes for the suspect to arrive within the screen, but also obstacles which appear later on. So that is, in brief, what the game is about. Ryan and Don, what do you think of this game?
Rock, paper, scissors. Don? Who wants to go first here?
So I'll admit at first when I played this in the game jam, I didn't totally understand what was going on because you're controlling yourself, then all of a sudden you have two of yourself. And it's not like a super involved concept, but it didn't click with me automatically.
It's
Um,
weird enough and left field enough where
yeah,
yeah, it's not immediately apparent. I agree.
yeah. And I mean the humor carried it for me where I wanted to see what was happening, but the gameplay I was like, I'm collecting arrows, but I don't really know why. Um, but then when I tried the full version of the game, it was obviously like a little bit more to it, and again, the humor was carrying it. But then there was variety to each level, and I admit, even when we were talking about this the other day, like Nick and I got stuck on the same level very late in the game, and it wasn't until then that I was like, "Oh, you're controlling one fly and then the other, and they're following the pattern, like you're setting the pattern for each of them." I thought they're just kind of doing random things when you're playing as the second fly. Like I wasn't paying enough attention, obviously, and trying to make a dedicated pattern. I was just whatever, collect arrows and then whatever, collect arrows. But
Well,
at a
sort
certain point,
of.
you have to be very precise about it. You can't just go
Mhm.
whatever, I'm collecting arrows.
Yeah, but sort of, right? Because yes, the first round, the first attempt, the first fly, you do your thing, and then the second round, it pretty much mirrors that unless you interact with the fly. So these two
Yes.
flies can bonk into one another.
Hmm.
The past fly is not a ghost. It has physical properties to it. So these flies run into one another. And if that happens, then well, chaos, right? Because then you cannot predict what the
Hmm.
past fly does. So
Hmm.
That's
that
true.
was another thing that made me feel like, oh, well, flip this table. I have no idea what the past fly is going to do until I was like, wait a minute, what happens if I don't interact with it? And then lo and behold, it did exactly what I told it to do that first time. So then I'm like, oh, okay, on these, just like Don was saying, there are these interesting variations within levels and increasing of difficulty with each level. And strategy you had to figure out for um, how to use these double flies. And it was fun because, like, at first on some of these levels, I'm like, why am I doing this? Because I'm just going to get bonked by a banana every time. Like, what's the point? Like, and eventually, once I figured out how to combine the past and future or past and present or whatever flies together, it started making a lot more sense and being more like I don't know. I felt like I got into the mind of Ian Harrower through this game because it was a very, as I said, out of left field game. I've not played anything like this. Have you guys?
No, I have not. Don, how about you?
I mean, it has elements of like a cookie and cream where you're sort of controlling both sides, but not exactly because you're not using different controls for each side. And I feel like there's a little bit of braid in here. Like I feel like there were braid
Hmm.
levels where you had one version of yourself and then another version of yourself.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing really just like this that I could think of where you, like you said, you break your pattern and then you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And definitely not in like a sort of a side-scrolling shooter, or what is this? A vertical shooter type of scenario here. So no, it is a fairly different type of gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah. So no scrolling, dear listener. This is a single screen game. And yeah, if you start interacting with that past fly, it can happen in ways that are beneficial. Like when you bonk them, then they move faster because it's like you shoved someone. But sometimes you're trying to get to something and they're in the way and you can't get there. Uh, it was an interesting challenge for sure. What did you think, Nick?
Oh, definitely. I really appreciated the skill that was required. And can I tell you all an embarrassing note about my
Sure.
gameplay?
Yeah.
I don't think I was alone here, but one thing that I discovered was that I was controlling it with the crank. And this is kind of funny to me because Ian, who participates in our Discord,
Hmm.
uh, posted and said that crank was like hard mode, very, very hard mode. And then he noted that not only can you control the game with the D-pad, but that it was only controllable with the D-pad in the PlayJam version. The crank control was added for the full release. And I played a lot of the PlayJam version and obviously had no memory of how I controlled it
Uh,
because I intuited the crank. For some reason, that was my go-to. And I
yeah, same.
really enjoyed the nuance of the crank control as it's implemented in this game. But I was having a lot of trouble in a very late stage of the game keeping up with the action um, using the crank alone. So that was very welcome. Thank you, Ian, and apologies for just being super obtuse and not reading because it mentions it right on the itch page.
I didn't read the itch page either. Yeah, Nick and
Same.
I got stuck in the same spot because we were both using the crank and it was like impossible mode.
Oh, interesting. You know what? I played the PlayJam version, and so I just jumped right into D-pad and never even gave it a second thought that the crank was available. So that's interesting for me to hear. With that said, I still got stuck real early. I think I was on level 4 and I was texting Nick and saying like, look, have you done this thing yet? Because I'm not getting anywhere. And he said, turn it on story mode, which is in the menu. That he told me eventually that I finally figured out. Anyway, story mode makes things easier. But I wanted to ask you about this, Nick. How precisely does it make it easier? Is it giving you
So
less arrows or more time or
I
what's happening there?
I believe, and I did not confirm this with Ian, so I don't know for sure. But in observing the game in story mode, the time that you have within the time stream ticks down at a slower rate than it would in
Oh,
normal
Hmm.
mode. So you have
interesting.
more time in the time stream,
Okay.
and therefore arrows have a greater effect as you collect them.
Hmm. Okay. Very
Was
interesting.
the is the Game Jam version uh complete? Like does it have 12 levels?
I
I
don't
believe it,
think
if I
so.
recall correctly, it ends after 4 levels and then it
Okay.
repeats.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't think it had all this stuff.
I remember
No,
the
no, no.
Game Jam version being way more shallow than this.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
it was kind of a one trick pony, but
Mhm.
this really gives you some variety, some more characters. Yeah, I felt like a lot of work had been done since the Game Jam.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And as far as wish list, something that I would like to see as I was playing, I really enjoyed the sound effects and the soundscape that was created in playing, but I would have liked to have heard like a background
Hmm.
track of some kind. I feel like that could give a sense of urgency, um, you know, to these flies that are trying to capture time criminals. It's
Yeah,
important.
and I know that Ian is also interested in pinball. He's also
Mhm.
interested in EM and early solid state games. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because Ian, what if there was some of that early solid state influenced sound where it could even be like a drone of something. Like I've got a Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man, and there's this whom 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 in the background as you're playing. But then as time goes on, it's just that same sound, but sped up incrementally over time. Whom whom whom, and eventually it starts getting to the point where it's like whom 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 whom, and you really feel this sense of urgency, this sense of tensity, this and that could really ramp up the feeling the feels in gameplay, I would imagine. And maybe that's an easy way to do it. I don't know. I speak very ignorantly, having never programmed a game my life.
Yeah,
So,
and this is just my thoughts. This may be perfectly exactly what Ian would like it to be, and I feel it's a complete game as it is. It's just
Hmm.
something that I noticed the more that I played. was, hearing a drone or, a jaunty tune
Yeah. After
as
a
I
while,
collected arrows.
hearing the coins, or I guess the arrows, or one or the other, you get used to just hearing the ding, 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 and
Hmm.
not anything else. It wasn't annoying, but
No, no, no.
you start to notice that something's missing, maybe,
I
in the
I
audio.
definitely heard the banana sound a lot more than the arrow sound.
It's so funny that we didn't think to use the D-pad. I
I know.
legitimately thought like, oh, I'm just gonna be stuck at 11. I can't make it. But then when I
I
got to
was
level
worried.
12, once we found out we could use the D-pad, um, I finished level 11 on my first try with the D-pad. And then level
Hmm.
12, like I was maxed out at 30 seconds. Like I collected so many arrows, like the game I guess would just never end. And
Mhm.
so I just sat there and waited for the timer to go down for the enemy to arrive and
Yeah.
then captured them. So I don't know
Yeah.
what if that's what you're supposed to do or whatever.
Yeah, there were a couple levels where the enemy came down and I was still collecting arrows, and I'm like, oh, I guess I should stop
Mm.
because nothing's gonna happen until I do. That was an interesting, like, uh, purgatory spot in the game.
This would be a
Um,
good like boss rush mode or time attack kind of thing. This would be a good one for that.
Yeah, like an endless mode. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Um,
I did have
but
a bit of a pot to stir on this game that I wanted to
ooh,
bring up with you guys.
I was wondering. I
I,
was wondering if you
are
were
you
going to
are
stir
you
this
ready?
pot.
Are you ready for a hot take? I don't know how hot this
Let's
take is going to be, but
let's do it.
I am really curious about your guys' opinions on this. So I'm not pulling back the developer curtain here. This was mentioned in game that the graphics are based on AI graphics. Now, these are not AI graphics. I want to say straight out of the gate, it's not like Ian Harrower Games is pulling these from AI and then dropping them directly into the game. Obviously, there's been a lot of manipulation and massaging of pixels in order to make this look really great on the Playdate on this 1-bit system. So I'm not trying to throw Ian under the bus here, but I come from a community, comics, where AI art is like a four-letter word. Like you say you're working with AI art and your reputation is immediately going to be dirt. Like people aren't going to want to talk to you because there's a lot of illegal scraping of art to create this AI work, and artists are not getting paid for that, even though their work is being used. They've even found, signatures in some of the AI reproductions, confirming that this is happening. Meta just came out saying that we're scraping everything in Instagram and Facebook, images, pictures, text, etc. Anything you do on here, we're taking it unless you go through this like 20-step deep process, and then they're going to reject it and say your request was denied. Anyway, I'm getting a little outside the point here. So the point is AI was used in part of the process of creating these graphics. And I'm curious how that's seen by somebody outside the comics community. Is AI more of an accepted norm in game developer arenas, in non-comics, non-game developer arenas that you see something like that mentioned? Do you think, oh gosh, I'm standoffish to this, or do you just think, does it even matter? Like, what are your guys' thoughts on the fact that AI art is a component in creating graphics for this game? I guess I'll stop there. Silence.
Don, what's your opinion?
I don't know that I have much experience with games that use AI art.
Yeah, Ian Harrower Games is probably the only developer where I've knowingly played a game that has utilized AI artwork as a reference. And Ian is very clear that he redraws everything. He uses just the generated art as a reference. Um, I believe that Ian tries to go about this as ethically as possible, and the model that he uses, which isn't disclosed on the itch page, and I hope he doesn't mind my saying, is something called stable diffusion. And stable diffusion has opt out and all kinds of different safeguards, as he has explained to me, for artists to prevent their work from ever being incorporated in the model that's used to do this. Now, my opinion as a game creator is that I prefer to pay an artist to commission their work and have um, a human artist compile this. Now, I have absolutely zero artistic talent. I can't even have a reference and then you know, generate a reference and then draw it from the reference. I can't draw anything. so, so my preference is always just to pay a human artist to do this. And I don't think that even if AI artwork becomes more widely accepted, that is something a practice that I will change, um, because and this is I won't even say that because it's going to sound offensive. But there are different AI models that are used to generate different AI artwork, and they each have their own different quirks and philosophies and all of that. And a lot of them are really not very ethical at all. And this is one of the more ones. And Ian does take a very thoughtful approach to the way that he utilizes AI, which I very much appreciate. So
Yeah, you
that there
can't.
is consideration, you know.
I also appreciate that Ian's even willing to say publicly this was used in the creation of it because he didn't have to. And I
Right.
would never know. I don't think anybody would ever know because the conversion from AI, super slick, very airbrushy type of aesthetic to a 1-bit pixel type artwork, like that's pretty removed. And I don't think that many people are gonna be able to pick out that link were he not mentioning it. So I thought that fact was awfully cool of Ian too. Don, were you gonna say something? I felt like I stepped over you a little there.
Uh, I mean, I kind of have a lot of opinions because I've worked for an AI company for a year, but something Nick kind of touched on is there's different companies that are more ethical than others as far as building AI engines. And that's true in any industry. There's,
Hmm.
I mean, there are songwriters that rip off other songwriters and create hit songs and don't give credit to the samples they use, or people, contractors that don't pay their employees well, or, I mean, there's a million things you can get into, but there's definitely the company I work for doesn't use any reference material for the stuff that we use. And that's like a big no-no, is that you cannot feed the model reference material. It has to be created, and they pay creative writers. That was the job I started, as a creative writer. And so they're paying humans. But I know that other models and other, they're fed Wikipedia, they're fed Sports Illustrated, they're fed whatever. And so that's what their model learns. And that, I don't think that's ethical either.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to bring this up to make a whole other episode out of this topic of discussion,
Well,
but I
yeah.
was curious about your guys' thoughts, your brief thoughts about how that was incorporated in this game. I think we probably touched on it about as well as we need to. But yeah, I don't know. Nick, this was your pick. Do you have any final thoughts to wrap these up? Um,
Yeah, I found the gameplay very engaging, and especially in the later stage when I switched to the D-pad, it sure made things a lot easier to play it as intended. I had a lot of fun exploring this game and figuring out the patterns of both the power-ups, the arrows, and the disincentives, the bananas, and trying to accommodate both my past self and my current self in the same screen, through the same pattern of these falling objects was really fun. It was such a unique challenge. So I enjoyed this game quite a bit, and I hope you all did too.
This
We
felt
did
kind
as
of like
well.
a simplified version, or not a simplified, but like a spoof version almost because of all the humor of the Kind to Yourself. Another game that I've been playing a lot of
Mhm.
because like the movement is so similar, and even using the crank as opposed to the D-pad was like, oh, this feels so different. Uh, but this was like, I mean, they're both funny games but different, and I don't know. It was funny playing two very similar but very different games side by side, off and on. It was kind of cool. But yeah, this is really fun and a different kind of experience. Even like we were saying, we couldn't really put a finger on, oh, this is just like blank earlier when we were
Yeah.
trying to describe it. So yeah, good picnic. Even though he's our friend, it's a little bit of like, oh, we're reviewing our friend's game, but it's still an interesting pick, and I still think it needs to be shared with the Playdate audience.
Totally. Yeah. Nice work fleshing out this Play Jam game, Ian. I felt like there was a ton of new content in here since
Mhm.
I'd played it. Nick, thank you for picking it. And speaking of picks, we've got another one coming up next episode. This time it's from moi, and we're going to be playing another jam game. This one is called Test Flight. It's from the Uncranked Game Jam. I really enjoyed this one. It was the one where it's basically this incredible little score chaser where you're a hot air balloon being pushed along by wind turbines, trying to avoid different obstacles and seeing how far you can get in a specific amount of time. Similar to like racing type games, there's checkpoints involved to boost your time. Nick mentioned it briefly on our coverage of the Uncranked Play Jam, but I liked it so much that I want to do a deep dive with you. And Nick and Don and anyone listening, let's see who can get the best score on here. I was playing it a whole bunch and I want to play it with you. So we have that to look forward to. Don't forget that stickers are now included in those Hello Playdate podcast t-shirts. Come and get them. We got links in the show notes for today's episode. I'm also going to post a picture of them in the Discord if you want to see how flippin' sweet these stickers are. You could have one to match your shirt. This is also the point in which I tell you about you were listening to the Hello Playdate podcast, which you can find on playdatepodcast.com or on your podcatcher of choice. We're also on the Discords and our roster of social media hellscapes like Instagram is Hello Playdate, Twitter/X is Hello PD Podcast. Despite Don's best efforts to leave there, I'm still checking in every once in a while. We got the Blue Skis. We got the Mastodon. Is that still a thing?
No, I
Mastodon?
don't use Mastodon.
Threads. Anyway, a bunch of stuff. And my favorite is our Bingo's tip line. What the heck is a Bingo's tip line? It's a line specifically paid for by our Nicholas Cornelius Baldridge, and you can call it at 724 Bingos 1. That's 724 246 4671. And the reason I love it even more is because I get to request when Don inconvenience Don to do some editing and share your wonderful words in
I
our
think that's
episode.
You
why
all,
you're adding so much news lately, just to piss me off.
I forgot to
What,
mention something. Can
what's
I
that?
can I mention this? I was provided a review code for Time Flies Like an Arrow. I don't know if you all were,
Oh,
but
You know
I
what?
don't remember.
You know what?
speaking of
I
ethics, it's important to disclose that.
true.
I feel like
However,
I bought it, but
check this out. After we played the Game Jam version, Ian Harrower was kind enough to gift me with a full version.
Mhm.
I forgot and bought it all over again. And when I tried to sideload it, it was doing some really weird. Why won't this sideload? And I finally looked in my play date. I'm like, oh, it's already there. So anyway, Ian got my money anyway. So I don't know what that means that I should say.
I'm pretty sure usually I buy my friends' games, but it looks like I don't think you did. Okay. Anyway, so
Okay.
yeah,
Maybe only
Um,
Nick needs
Nick's
to
the golden
disclaim.
child, apparently.
well,
No, I got it too, but then I also tossed some cash his way. Anyway, I'm glad Ian has my cash. That was a fun game.
Oh, wait, here's a key as the host of the
The,
podcast. He did give me
there
one.
you
This came out in
go. There you
January? Okay. Thank
It
you,
did,
Ian.
yeah.
He gave it to all of us. Okay. Yeah. All right. How's that for a silky smooth outro? Bye, guys.
It's it. If you're playing that test flight game, dock your crank first. I'll have to put it in the show notes because Ryan wouldn't shut
Oh.
up. But dock your crank. All right, bye.
Out.